Dave, after two really good away wins in the last couple of weeks, how much are you looking forward to getting back in front of your own supporters at Edgeley Park this weekend?
Yeah, listen, it's always good when you come from away games, I suppose, and you've got good results to come back home and try and back that up. Obviously, a big game. I imagine close to if not a sellout, a good atmosphere against the team that 2 years ago won in the Premier League. So, excuse me, a good test of where we're at, and obviously keen to continue the run we're on.
You have a bit of a quiet period this month in terms of league games with the cup games and Wimbledon getting postponed. How do you make the most of that and use it to your advantage?
I think it becomes an advantage to us anyway, because I suppose what we've been doing over the past month really is every league game we tick off, we hope that a player that's injured's one game closer to coming back into training and being available for us. So when there are games that are called off or games that are missing due to cup games, it just means that there's a league game missed. So hopefully by the end of this month we should have players a lot closer to returning. The only, I suppose, caveat to that is that we hope that we don't lose any players in the period between now and then. That was obviously the case on on Saturday, but fingers crossed we can be pretty injury free, and when the players do come back, they only strengthen us.
You've spoken about it before, but you've got yourself on another good little run at the minute. In fact, on Saturday, you can equal your longest winning run in the league from last season. You've been here before. How do you keep this going? Is it all just about being consistent?
Yeah, we're really consistent in our behaviours, in our routines, regardless of what happens with the result. We've been here before, so nothing changes. Every game you play in this division brings a different challenge, and it doesn't matter. Go back to a couple of games ago when we're playing Huddersfield away and we're backing out, we're playing Blackpool and Exeter at home, and everyone would think that, oh, because you win at Huddersfield then it's a given that you win against Blackpool and Exeter. We did, but certainly not a given. Just because we're on the run that we're on makes absolutely zero difference. We're coming up against a team that quite rightly will be one of the favourites, because they'll be one of the biggest backed team in the division because of their, I suppose, relegations that they've come down. They've still got players in their squad that played in the Premier League, and they'll be expected to bounce back, not at the start of the season that they would have hoped for, hence why Jack's come in and has taken over. But the season's really young, there's so much time left, and they'll be hoping to, I suppose, carry on a little bit of a run they've had, in order to be competing right at the right at the top of the table. From our side of things, yeah, listen, a great game to play in. If we look at where we've come from as a club, and we'd have been told 2 years ago that we'd have been playing against Luton in a league game, with them being a Premier League team, you would absolutely taking it. So we'll approach it like we do every other game, but understand there's a big challenge ahead of us.
You're absolutely flying away from home at the minute, the best away record in the division. It's been a little bit more tense at times at home. You've had to grind out a couple of victories. Are you seeing a big difference in terms of how teams are setting up when they come to Edgeley Park?
Not really. I think, again, we're maybe in times the anomaly, and maybe that's down to me. I don't see there's certainly no difference in terms of how we set up when we go away from home to how we play at home. But I understand other teams will do that, and maybe look at thinking that picking a point up on the road is a good result. I would suggest that maybe from our side of things, and I say this as a collective really, maybe there's a thought process that if you keep things tight, or you frustrate, then everybody within the ground, our team, our supporters can become frustrated and a little bit edgy. If that's the case, then we need to get beyond that. And our home record over the past 4 years would suggest that we've done that on most occasions. So do we expect teams to come and make it difficult for us? Absolutely. Is there more pressure on teams when they're playing at home to go and be on the front foot and win the game? Maybe, and that probably suits us a little bit. But that's not going to not going to change. Maybe it'll change against certain teams. You look at the games that we speak about it when we go to away games about behaving like a big team. Bolton came to us and would play in a way that expects them to win. I expect Luton will come and expect to play in a way that expects them to win. That maybe makes for a more open game, and a game that on the eye from a supporter's perspective looks better. But ultimately it doesn't matter. There's still 3 points up for grabs, and whoever performs best on the day will hopefully get them 3 points.
You're still top of the league. Obviously, Stevenage beaten at Reading last night, but it's so congested in those top spots at the minute. Obviously, Luton will be hoping for a win that can put them in the mix as well. How many teams do you think are capable this season of challenging for those top two positions?
At the moment, the league looks a little bit different than it did last year, with Birmingham being the runaway and everyone else sort of like jostling for positions and trying to maybe get that second spot. I still think that the league's wide open. I still think there are big, well-backed teams that are maybe struggling at the minute and not had their runs, but there are also teams that have maybe are a bit of a surprise package that have started really, really well. Again, there are teams, you look at the teams that got promoted. Bradford are doing brilliantly, Wimbledon doing brilliantly, Stevenage, Revs is doing a brilliant job there, and are up in the mix. And maybe they're teams that people maybe have said may take a little bit of time to find their feet, but they've taken to it like a duck to water. So there are always going to be that. You look at Bolton last couple of games, some late goals has got them some wins and has put them in a position where they'd expect to be. Cardiff would expect to be where they are. We'd have hoped to be where we are in and amongst it. But there's still so much time to go. There's like I say, we're 14 games in. Things don't really settle down. We probably come into a period now where, as you say, there are games called off with the last international break of the year before the March one. The FA Cup kicks in, so there's a little bit of a fragmented programme with league games. But once you're through that, you're then into the Christmas period and the chaos that brings and the amount of games that brings. And once you come out of that, maybe the things will look a little bit clearer as to how the table may look.
Just been chatting to Ollie Norwood, some obviously more recognition for him this month, nominated for Player of the Month, but his performances certainly predate that. You could probably go back as far as January, where he's been arguably the best player in the division. Where does he rank in terms of the players you've been fortunate enough to manage? How good is he?
Yeah, Ollie's a fantastic player, hence why he played at the level that he did. And he's probably one for us that go back just over 12 months. And when Ollie was training with us, we didn't really have any ambitions or hopes of signing Ollie. I think it's a real good story for the football club that somebody who's played in the Premier League and the Championship for most of their career almost came to us and asked, would there be a possibility of him coming into the club, which says everything about what Mark and Simon have built here, in terms of the facilities, in terms of the squad, in terms of somebody coming from the outside, seeing it and going, I feel excited about being part of this. I think it's probably fair to say that there was a bit of transition period in the first part. Ollie's never played at League One, probably never played with League One players. But once he sort of found his feet, he's not looked back, and he's been a brilliant player for us. And has only improved in terms of how he's fitted into the surroundings, how he's taken on a leadership role in his own way, how he acts as a professional, and his performances are only getting better and better. And long may that continue. I don't think any of us saw Ollie as being a goal-scoring midfielder, but we knew that his set-piece delivery would certainly cause problems. But for him to pitch in with what he has, whilst also doing the things that he's accustomed for and we almost expect him to do now and control games of football, it's been really, really pleasing, and hopefully that'll continue for him.
And for what is still quite a young squad, how much do you rely on him as a leader, as the experienced head in that dressing room?
Yeah, I think we've not got loads, but I think is Ollie a vocal leader of a type? He's becoming more of that, but not really in a really, I say, aggressive way. We've others. Ozzie's been brilliant for that in terms of him coming in as a lone player. It's easy to probably keep your head below the parapet, but has sort of stepped up. Woods has been brilliant in terms of that type of thing over the years. Ben's obviously been here for a long time, and his experience and know-how and knowledge of the club certainly helps. So there's more and more that are, I suppose, playing their part. We're big on accountability and big on players having a voice and wanting to, I suppose, give an opinion and have ownership of what's going on in a good and a bad way. Be able to say when they think things aren't right, whether that be externally or internally within the dressing room, because we all have the same goal here. So yeah, in terms of how they all pitch in and do that, that's something that we've worked really hard on, and they've taken a stranglehold of, really, and long may that continue.
Moving on to injuries, obviously the big concern was for Ben Osborne last weekend. How is he, and do you have any fresh concerns going into Saturday?
Ozzie's better than we thought, which is good. Now, I suppose the one thing we need to be careful with him is that he's desperate, in a positive way, he's desperate to get back and be playing. So he's been back on the grass already and done some running, which in week one of a hamstring injury is good. Obviously, we have to be careful and be wary, because he is so desperate to sort of get back and continue to play his part, because he's had a really good run, and the tear he's got is not a significant one. It's in a place that has sort of history of potentially re-injuring, so we need to be careful with that. And he's someone who's had a history of muscle injuries, so again, one that we need to be careful, and one that we were very aware of. I've said this previously in interviews. We knew that we were sort of rolling the dice a little bit. We, I suppose, got ourselves to a situation where Dodge is just about ready, and surprise, Ozzy sort of breaks down. Thankfully, only with a little one. So he's going to be a little bit of time. Apart from that, we'll see how everybody else is. We're in a decent space. Like I say, we hope that we don't lose players whilst we're getting players back. We want to keep the ones we've got fit and only add to the group. And like I say, hopefully that'll come through.
And in terms of players coming back, how far away are the likes of Malik, Teo, Brad, R2?
Malik hopefully will be again available for us tomorrow. Brad, Teo, R2. As you say, this month helps in a certain way. I would hope that sort of next round of the FA Cup, start of December, you would see those back involved, and Ozzy probably back involved either then or slightly before then. So fingers crossed, we've only sort of 3 or 4 league games before we do have players available. The FA Cup will be maybe a good one for us. Tuesday night becomes an important one for us, because we want to try and progress in order to hopefully have more competitive games for those players that will be coming back into the fold. I think Brad and Arsu will come back at a similar time, which again will be good, because to have 2 centre halves and maybe not be reliant on one and have to push them, maybe we can spell them a little bit in terms of their reintegration into the first team, which will be good. But like I say, only on the back of hopefully not losing no more.
And just finally touching on Luton, who I guess is still maybe levelling out a little bit after back-to-back relegations. Jack's got in there a few weeks ago. What do you make of that appointment? Because he's certainly got a very talented squad to work with there.
Yeah, they've got a really good squad, and I know things are always going to be tough when you get relegated, because regardless of coming down and wanting to keep your squad together, there's players within that group that will have wanted to move on. And I suppose because the transfer window's open till the end of the first month in the season, that first month can be pretty difficult, because there'll be players in that group that maybe are playing for them but ultimately don't want to be there and want to try and move on, and there's some selfish actions, if you like. That's now closed. They've got the squad they've got until January, barring free agents, so they know where they're at. Obviously they've made a change and Jack's come in. I know Jack well. I did my pro licence with him over the last 18 months. So Jack's had the experience of, I suppose, being a coach in with Norwich in the Championship. Would hope to get an opportunity there, but has been patient. I know he's linked with other jobs in the division, but he's got one of the top ones in terms of a team that, in reality, based on their status, are the biggest team in the league because of where they were 2 years ago. Like I say, they've got a deep squad. You look at, I've watched a few games, but the game on the TV last weekend in the FA Cup against Forest Green, you look at what the bench was, and they've got quality that, if you were looking at it and I suppose speaking about them, you'd say was above League One level. So we know that we're going to be tested to the max, but I would hope that people will look at our squad and look at what we're doing and say we're a really, really solid, competitive League One team that's sat in a strong position, and they'll understand it's going to be as difficult a game as what we think it'll be.
Appreciate your time, Dave. Thank you.
Welcome. Cheers. Thank you.